I've been a chaplain here in Marin County for about 17 years or so. I work in a couple of institutions here, the San Quentin, the state institution, and the local county jail. Well, I've been visiting inmates for some time now, especially in the jail. A number of women inmates who are incarcerated for a number of different reasons. But a lot of them I notice have families, and they're separated from their children, which is always really gut-wrenching for me and really kind of hard to see, because obviously they want to be close to their kids and they can't be. So there was one actually that I was visiting just recently. It's a new inmate who just come to, or I just started to see her actually fairly recently. And my first meeting with her, she looked very distraught. We talked a little bit. She has two children, a daughter who's 9 and a son who's 11. And she was just really, really missing them. She hadn't seen them in probably 18 months or so. They were in the custody of 2 different caregivers. Her mother was taking care of the son. Her ex-husband's family was taking care of the daughter. But she was just really distraught and hadn't seen them in a while. And so we talked a lot about that, and about how in Christian Science we can really know that we're all God's children, and God's taking care of every one of us, and even those that we're not with or can't be with personally. So we prayed with those ideas and talked about some other things. We talked about effective prayer. We talked about kind of letting go and yielding our own plans and our own will. And she seemed to really resonate with this. She was new to Christian Science, hadn't heard of it really before, but had been to a service and was very receptive to some of these ideas. I'd given her an article actually earlier on the whole idea of yielding and humility, which I think she had really kind of resonated with, and the idea that when we really give up our own plans and are willing to accept God's will for us and God's thoughts, that typically our human affairs go much smoother and more harmonious, and things just turn out for the best. All things work together for good to them that love God, as we read in the New Testament, and we worked with those ideas a little bit, and I think she started to kind of resonate with some of that. So sometimes people. You can just kind of tell when you sit down with them, like they're gonna get this right away, and this is really going to help them a lot. Or other people they really struggle with it, and it takes them a lot longer. So there's a woman I've been seeing, for example, for about 6 months now. She's been in and out 3 times in that 6 months, and every time she gets out, she relapses, she comes back in, and we just kind of keep working at it. This woman that I was talking about earlier, though, when she came in, I could just kind of tell she was very open and receptive to some of these ideas. You could feel a kind of hunger in her heart, because I think she was just so sad about losing her children, having her children kind of out of her control, and so ready to be done. She had been previously incarcerated, and she was just so tired of this life, and you could just kind of see a shift in her thinking that, I'm ready to do something different. I'm ready to get out of this mode and beat my family's expectations that I'm never going to go anywhere or amount to anything. And sure enough, I think she was really willing to put in the effort and make that work. Adopt some of these new ideas, try some new things. A lot of these concepts are alien to people who've never been incarcerated before, but when they see them work, they get excited about it. In the intervening week before I went back in to see her again, she had really been praying with some of these ideas and thinking about what we had talked about. And so when I went back in the following week, she said, "Oh, Chris, I've got the most remarkable news. After we talked and after I kind of reflected on what we were talking about and how to pray more effectively," she said, she really turned her heart out to God in prayer in a way that she had never found before. And she said it just felt so good and so comforting to her. And she said the most remarkable things happened. The first thing that happened was she was led to call her mother. And when she called her mother, her son, who she hadn't talked to in 18 months, answered the phone kind of unexpectedly. And she said she was so surprised, she broke out in tears and could hardly talk to him, but she pulled herself together. She said she had a wonderful conversation with him. They rekindled their relationship, felt connected again that they hadn't been for such a long time, and she was just so heartened by that. And then 2 days later, almost on cue, she got a letter from her 9-year-old daughter, and again, unexpected, but she'd handwritten out a whole letter saying how much she'd missed her mom, how she was hoping her mom was getting better in jail, and that she couldn't wait to see her again on the outside. And she realized, she said, if either one of these had actually happened separately, she probably wouldn't have put two and two together. But she said the fact that they both had happened right then, right after she had prayed about these things and thought about these ideas, she realized that she was really seeing God in her life and God in action in what was going on there. And I think it was very humbling for her. She came back to our meeting the following week, and she was so excited about it and so receptive to learn more about what we were talking about, because she saw really the practicality, what we've been dealing with.